you're in this discussion, there's a version 2 of the reference architecture that you think needs to come out. And from where I sit and looking at the book Investments Unlimited, I read the Phoenix Project like others did. And here's a novel about what happened inside an IT organization and how it was thinking, the emotions that are playing out across different roles and responsibilities in the org. And there was truly that the story enabled people to live that experience and say, this is how I live. And by the way, the story has a happier ending of life can be better. Where was this?
There's a funny story. Yeah, it's a real funny story.
So a story mode.
Yeah. So what happened was you sort of like it's usually 3 days the forums that you go and you do 2 days of hard work and then the last day you sort of do some fun stuff and then you usually got like 3 months to finish the paper, right? So the first half, I think it was even the first day, I don't think we still had decided to turn it into a book, and we were listening to everybody else's readout and everybody else's readout is like really cool, like great stories and we're all sitting there looking at each other like ours sucks, And then I started thinking about like, how come nobody downloaded the green paper, that everybody on the planet was going to fall in love with. And I think at some point, somebody, it wasn't me, I don't know who said it, like
Jason Cox.
Was it? Oh, so let's turn it into a book.
He's a Disney guy. Yeah. He said, why don't we make it a story?
Yeah, and then I'm like,
and you took.
Then I'm like, holy, we should make it a Phoenix Project story. But yeah, it was Jason. I didn't remember who did it, but it was like, and then like, so then we show up the next day and we got a story and it's like, oh, wow. It was pretty good.
Yeah, before Jason, we were kind of debating after the paper, which we thought would be a great success. What do we do? We solve the technical problem. But then what you said, it's a people problem too. How do you actually explain the people problem in a paper?
You could have done the technical parts, the prescriptive technical parts in like 5 pages.
Yeah.
But you need the other 195 pages just to kind of make people make the pain real to them.
And show the people problem.
Right. And then understand like, oh, this could be better. And everyone looks at that and knows there's a little bit of the 80s like video montage in the middle, like, oh, wow, they just got better, right? But you still see the point. You still be like, yeah, that checks of how my life is today. And now that I see this, like, oh, okay, I could see this going better. It gives you hope. Right.
Yeah.
There's a different way of.
And they lived it. So it was beautiful that like they could tell the whole story of all the pain that you went through. It became a people's story because you could not just tell us the technical things that we did, but the stories of like all the things you had to go through to actually get that implemented in a lot.
Well, I mean, it came up to a point where as I was writing, like real life caught up to where we were in the book.
Yeah, it's funny.
And there was one day I got out of a meeting and I sat down. It was like chapter 12 or something like that. It was what I just lived that day. My biggest regret is we had a deadline. Of course, we had a deadline, but man, it was all real stuff that was going on. The conversations, the debates back and forth. One of the things that I found out was most important during that time is terminology, what the words mean. Yeah. Because the words were already bumping into one another, right? But so much of the disagreements that led to that book around, we talked about the denominator and like, what does it mean to have an application onboarded? What is an application? Well, an application is constructed of a bunch of different components. Well, what's a component, right? Those types of things are just so real. And I think there's something that every organization experiences because this is a new space. And how do you define the things and then set boundaries around them? That was, it was cathartic to say the least. To be able to write that.
I heard that from a lot of organizations that, hey, this is like our story.
Yeah.
Just like Phoenix Project. And it's kind of imaginable why it is everybody's story. And not only that, after writing the book, we actually found a company that went through the problem.
Oh, that was crazy.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is really insane. So we can't say who the name of the company was, but so we had made up this fictional investments. We came up with a mid-size, big enough, not like Monster Bank, but big enough that we could tell a shorter story, smaller staff. And so what we do, so you guys had pulled out a lot of research about severe enforcement actions or MRIAs and MRAs, and that was all education. All of us who weren't in banking. And so we sort of came up with, I think, and I don't remember exact numbers, but like Investments Unlimited had like 14 outstanding MRAs. They were about to get it. The CEO gets a call from OCC saying, hey, you're going to get an MRIA. this could be like real big time. She pulls everybody in the room.
By the way, do you remember how much research you did to find out who calls who to make that real? Yeah, it was a lot of work to figure out. How does one find out they're getting an MRI?
Yeah, and the whole severe unfortunate, that whole thing was just a plethora of knowledge that I think got really unloaded a lot because of you guys in the banking industry. So we're going through that, and then Gene hooks us up with somebody who's on a CTO team of a bank that got
cease and desist.
Cease and desist. An Asian bank that literally got a cease and desist for their American division. And so the guy's going through the story, and it's identical. It's 15 outstanding MRAs for like 18 months. And now here's the difference. Their CEO ignored the MRIA. Ours didn't.
Did it, a number of books that are written are just, again, a single author has an idea, tells a story. What made Investments Unlimited better? Because it had so many people involved in writing it. Was that just an outcome of, we were trying to write the reference architecture, and that was a group project? It
was two accidents, right? First accident was that it wasn't going to be a book. And really, it was never going to be a book. So what happened was we had like 70 pages, and it was good enough, right? Like most papers. And Leah just kept pinging. Everybody's gone. It's all over. Where everybody's dispersed. And she's calling me like, yeah, can you add a little stuff? I'm like, Leah, like, the band is this. We're not playing together anymore. Like we're the Beatles. We stopped, right? And then she did a couple more times. She said, yeah, but like, it would be really great. And then I guess she talked to Gene, and then she came back. Well, Gene says, do you think the guys would want to turn it into a book that we would publish? I'm like, I'm sure they would. And then we got on a call, and then they gave us like, another year or something to finish it. And so it wasn't even really, it wasn't supposed to even be a novella or a paper that was a story. Yeah. Then it like turned into that where they said, it was going to be sort of a novella as a paper. And then, they said, well, what if we gave you a year or so to finish it and helped you? And she became our editor. And then at that point, that's when you guys, I was like, all right, I'm kind of done. But like Michael and John and a couple of people really started just, because then now it's like just your memory to like, you had to create a great story. And then I think you guys anchored it home on, like really helping create. And Bill got a little like flurry with his like, Jane took the dog. I love you, Bill, if you're watching, but Jane took the dog out and it was raining and it was like, Bill, all right, calm down a little bit.
I remember that was the best part because I didn't have to write a book, but I would sit down, I'd write a meeting. I'd write the scene from a meeting, and I'd go to Leah, the editor, and I'd say, can you get me to tomorrow? Yeah. And she'd have the guy driving home, picking up his kids, soccer and stuff and filling in. But that's what really kept him. It was very much a relay. We passed the baton to one another. Yeah. And then at the end, I think you were really crucial at the end, kind of tying it all together. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend writing a book with 9 people in the future. It was,
I've written a book.
Another crazy thing. So we were working on the ACE-BOMB chapter. You remember that?
Yeah.
We were working on the ACE-BOMB chapter. ACE-BOMB is a part of the whole governance process and blah, blah, blah.
At the time.
And then 9th December, Log4j happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right in the middle of it. Yeah. In fact, it sort of took us, we had to stop.
And we stopped. Hey, we need a bigger chapter on this.
We got a job impact. We need to fix this thing. Yeah.
Log4j changed the SBOM chapter.
Yes.
Or where that was introduced.
First off, nobody showed up for any calls for like 3 weeks. We'd have like every Wednesday night, we'd have our call. Like, I don't think anybody's coming tonight either.